Good evening. I am Richard S. McGhee, and you are watching The Learning Tree. We're going to have some interesting discussion this evening about, we started out thinking about it was going to be about Christian entertainment and the arts, but I guess we're going to couple it with a few other things. We have Mr. Fennell here, who is not a part of the Christian movement, or at least not the part of the movement that Mrs. Dukes is part of. But they work together, so we're going to have an interesting story, which is going to be, we're going to mold it into a whole good story. So I want to start at the end with Mr. Fennell and ask him if he would tell me a little bit about himself, where he was born, what happened to him, how he got here, and why he wants to be on this magnificent show.
Well, I was born in New York City. I live in Boston now. I'm a Vietnam era veteran, non-combat. I'm a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather.
You've got a great-granddaughter.
Yes, I have a great-granddaughter and two
How
great-grandsons.
did I know that it was a daughter?
Well, I got a lot of girls in my family.
That was the first thing out of my mouth.
Right. Yeah. So I'm real happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming.
And while I may not be in that situation that you call Christian theater, I know that God blessed me to write. So I don't take any credit for my writings, which includes, I believe, 5 or 6 plays, 4 of them produced, a trilogy of books.
What are the names of your plays?
Well, the one we're doing on October 29th is.
You have one coming up?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one
in
that
Boston?
one in Boston, yeah, at the
Okay.
Strand Theater.
Okay.
That's the Miss Myn Herte and Friends project.
Okay.
And then we have one that we've been doing for 19 straight years, called the Harlem Renaissance Revisited with a Gospel Flavor. That'll be 20 years next year. Can't Go Home is about a young lady that wanted to be a gospel singer, but she kind of fell in love and fell out of that mindset. We have Lights Out, a play about prison and HIV. We have a conversation between Spike Lee and Oscar Micheaux.
Did you get Spike to play the role?
No, this is we are history formatted.
Okay.
All our material is from our history. Like the Harlem Renaissance, one of the most culturally significant times in American history, still reverberates today. And the Myn Herte and Friends project is a 3-part project based on 3 people, or 2 people, and one social phenomenon in music that came out of Philadelphia. Myn Herte, born in Philadelphia. Bishop Richard Allen, the founder of the AME movement. And then we're doing something on the Philadelphia Sound. We're going to do something on the Philadelphia Sound. So that's the other play that we perform, from gospel to hip hop and all in between, featuring a lot of dance and dance a lot.
Where did you get your training?
Well,
I presume you're a self-made person.
Yeah, I have a degree from UMass Boston, but it's not in theater.
Okay. How'd you get into theater?
Through the back door.
Okay. How'd you get through the back door?
Well, I've always been interested in our history, and I just, asked the Lord, to write, and I wrote while I was living in a shelter, I wrote the Harlem Renaissance Revisited with a Gospel Flavor, and we've been doing that, using the principle of collaborations, because we don't seek funds from funders, but we look to our community for support, as they did during the Harlem Renaissance time, and when they did it, I said, do you think we could do a play out of it? And then they said, oh, yeah. So, you know, I researched it some more. Then I went on and got it copyrighted. So I'm now in the Library of Congress several times.
Good for you, God. Well, that's an achievement.
Right, it is. It is.
And so, you have a production company?
Yes, we have the Oscar Michaud Family Theater Program Company, and we have performed across the Commonwealth at Boston College, Northeastern University, UMass Boston, Springfield College, churches, jails. You know, because it's important.
Cover the whole horizon.
Right.
Well, it's important that, you know, we want our cast to understand the importance of community service.
Right.
You know, to work in our community, because they don't have a lot of time or money, meaning the people from our community, to see a full production with costumes, music, sound, and good talent that comes from our community, which impacts how we feel about ourselves, because our history is not a mystery, it's just not told.
Right.
Internet forever, is that right?
That's correct.
I got it right.
Got it right that time.
Wait till I come the second time.
First time doesn't count, the camera was off.
Tell us about you. How did you get this world? What have you been doing for yourself?
I am a native Rhode Islander, and I mostly have a business mind. So I studied accounting and business management in high school and did a specialization in that, and then moved on to the University of Rhode Island and got a bachelor's degree in business administration as well. But I also have a creative side. I love to write. I love to sing. I love to create things. I, design and sew clothes as well. And Helen contacted me back in 2010 and said, I'd like you to, come and work with me with IBG Productions and in a business capacity.
That was about 6 years ago, huh?
It was about 6 years ago.
Okay.
And so we did.
What did you do up to the time that you
Up
got,
until then, I was in the work
found?
world. I was an executive assistant and across multiple industries. I currently still have a day
what's
job.
Across
Multiple industries: finance, banking, insurance.
Oh, okay.
Just bio research.
These are all the areas that you
that I've worked
served
in.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And now I'm a project manager in an executive search firm. And so I do that for my day job.
Okay.
But in the evenings and in my quote-unquote spare time, I'm the treasurer at my church, and then I also am the business manager for IBG Productions.
Did you say you also write?
I do.
What
yes.
have you written recently?
I have written a number of plays, and I've written...
Well, how many would you say is a
I've
number?
written about 4 or 5 plays.
4 or 5
I've
plays.
written maybe 10 short stories, and I've written a novel which is unpublished, but I have also
when
applied
you put
for
it out
my...
for me to read?
I did a beta group,
Put it on the street.
and at one point it was published as an ebook.
What's an ebook?
An ebook is an electronic book. It's a
Okay,
book in
all
electronic
right.
format, and
You can't use acronym there. You gotta,
sorry,
No.
electronic book. But then the company that whose program that I used
all right.
went out of business.
Oh, that's
So I have not taken the time yet to reformat it, but it is a full novel. It's
Okay.
called The Anointed, and it's
what's
about
the name of it?
The Anointed.
Who?
The Anointed.
Okay.
And it's about a young preacher who desires to be the general overseer of an international church organization, and he gets his start in Providence. I set the book in Providence. He gets his start there, and he has a lot of struggles, and then he eventually meets with scandal, and the question is, will he survive the scandal and continue to pursue his dreams, and will the Lord show him and show everybody else that he truly is God's anointed?
Are you going to convert it?
I would love to convert it to a play. I just haven't quite figured out how to do that, but I think it's probably
How many
more.
pages? How many pages? We
It's
got?
258 reading pages.
That's 2 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's more appropriate to probably transfer into film.
No movie.
A movie, yeah, do a movie.
That's what she said, film. A movie.
And Helen Baskerville Dukes.
Yes.
You're the cause we're here.
Yes.
Yes, I was told that you have a marvelous story to tell. So let's hear your story.
Well, probably not as marvelous as Haywood's, but he didn't disclose a lot of stuff about himself. But I will about myself.
Okay. He didn't tell me the whole story?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I like the way
no.
you did that.
Oh, no.
It's called shifty.
No fair.
Well, we
we can
can-
get back to you.
Right. Well, back in the late 90s, I had left the church I had attended for a number of years. And after I had left the church, I began to write for some reason. I used to be a rapper.
A what?
A rapper.
Did you
Yes,
now?
yes. In my
Were you
early
good?
teens, I was great.
Oh, no.
Are you kidding me?
Did,
Yes.
did you cut any tapes?
Actually,
Records?
no, I didn't.
Oh.
I had ran during my high school years. I ended up being with this guy, this dude, and he didn't like rappers, so I stopped rapping. So I did not pursue that. And then my current husband was like, "Why did you stop?" But so had I known I was
That's
going
what
to be
your current husband said.
right, he was like, "You
You
should
should
have
have
kept
met him before these others.
Exactly,
Stay off the track.
exactly." But everything happens for a reason. So,
Okay.
well, after I left the church, I began to write, and I had written.
What denomination are you?
Baptist.
Baptist. Okay.
Now, I was at a non-denominational church. At that point, it was non-denominational. Right now, I'm at a Baptist.
And when you work, which way do you go in terms? Do you go ecumenical, or do you go just a whole bunch of religious things together?
Well, I don't know what that first word you said means, but what I am about the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Oh,
So
okay.
if that's being preached and taught, that's where I am.
Okay. All right. All right.
Okay.
What I mean is, do you center your work on one sect of religion, or do you
Yes.
incorporate them?
Yes.
Baptist, Catholic.
No,
Baptist,
it's all Christian. That's what I see myself
all
as.
Christian. Okay.
Exactly. So
that incorporates a whole bunch of folks.
okay, yeah,
Oh,
okay. But it's definitely Christian. So after I had left my church, I started writing a movie, and through the process, producers I would call and get information. They would say, "I cannot accept your work because you need an agent." And then the agent would say, "I cannot accept your work because you need experience." So I formed my own production company, which is called Inspired by Grace Productions.
What?
Inspired by Grace Productions, IBG.
I was wondering what that inspired
Yes.
by Grace. Yeah.
Yes. So that happened, and then once I had found a new church home, I allowed my pastor and a young lady to read my work, and after she read it, she was like, "Can you do a Black History play?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I had written the life of Sojourner Truth, based on Sojourner Truth's life story. And then after it went well in my church's basement in the fellowship hall, and then this same woman had asked me to write a larger play, and that was my first.
What was the first one?
It was called Coming Together, and I did it with the church, and right after that, and all this came from '98 all the way up to 2005. That's when I had actually taken my plays and started producing them outside of the church.
Oh, okay.
And since then, I just produced my 11th play, which was The Engagement, which premiered on Saturday, the 10th of September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We had a great turnout. It was beautiful. Yeah, so we had well over 500 people, which was amazing. Simply because, historically, as we know, anything after the Harlem Renaissance era in Harlem, a lot of times we have issues with Black people attending what we have to offer, and we're so gifted in those areas. But for some reason, we shy away from them. We don't put our support in those areas, nor our children. So we just seem to be focused with football and basketball, but we have so many other more talents in our community. So this monumental showing of so many people in the audience, it overwhelmed me, and I'm grateful to God. Exactly. It's been a long road.
What's IBG Productions?
Actually, it's inspired by Grace Productions, and what we do is a host of Christian.
Well, that's what the IBG is.
We do a host of
What's
Christian.
wrong with me?
It's okay. A host of Christian entertainment. So we just don't do plays. We also do film. I produced my first movie in 2014. It was called Ladies' Night. Actually, it was based off one of the plays.
A couple of years ago. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So and
let's talk a little bit about IBG before you go there. I went online, of course, which I'm supposed to do, and there are all kinds of IBGs. I found you on my laptop, but I couldn't get you on my desktop. And on the laptop, I found a little bit of information on you, but there are IBGs, and there are some other kinds of movie things that IBG is connected to. What are they?
As in my business?
No, just IBGs. There are a whole bunch of them on.
Well,
they're connected all over the country. Seems to be a big one in Texas and in Wyoming.
I know there's a big one in Florida. It's they actually do media, sort of like what's happening here. And they go out and they produce and they film whatever it is you need to film. Also, IBG, you'll find music, whereas they produce music and records and stuff. That name was given to me in '98 one night. I don't know, it just happened. I was in the room and I was writing and I was upset and I was like, God, why is it so hard for me to get my movie out there? And as I, started typing and everything, all I can remember what came out of it was inspired by Grace Productions and a prayer that I still have today in my file cabinet. So I don't know why God gave me this name, but it is the name that He has given me for my business.
Well, there seem to be quite a few.
I know. I've Googled it.
I was wondering if there was a hub or a central one, nothing of that sort. Just you each stand alone, and you came by your own wishes.
Right. But the funny thing is that a lot of them are connected to audio visual arts. So when
you do have some connection.
No. When I had Googled the name, because of course I wanted the name, and just IBG, but it wasn't production. It was just IBG.com. That was some type of technology firm. However, when I looked up IBG Productions, I have that name .com, so I'm kind of like the first one out of the gate with that name for a website purpose. But as I looked around, even on Facebook, a lot of it is media, music producing, and all those things that are connected to the arts, audio visual.
In part of your write-up, you make a quote of one of the scriptures. Romans 8:28. What is Romans 8:28, and why is it important in your write-up?
Right.
Of what inspired by grace is?
Well, during that time, that was one of the scriptures that was I kept hearing all the time, and I needed to not just hear it, I needed to absorb it, because in the beginning of my process of writing and seeking whatever it is that I was seeking in the arts, I needed to know that things were going to work out no matter what I faced. All things work together for the good for those who love God and to those who are called according to His purpose.
I'm fascinated in the concept of Christianity through the arts. Christianity through the theater, through the general concept of art. Is it limited to just the theater, or this concept? Or?
No, actually, I just don't do Christian plays or whatever I do. Rather, it's a movie, it's a teleplay, rather it's a book. But that is the foundation of my business and who I am. Without God, I can't do any of this. And I try to maintain a standard in Christ when I write. So even if it's something secular, it's family oriented.
What is the most religious thing that you've written? You don't sound like everything you've written has been religious in its.
Well, all my plays have some Christian undertones.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they all do. I've written a couple of short stories. They don't. However, you can read them without feeling guilty. You know what I'm saying?
That's no fun.
But they are they're very well written. They're very good.
No fun though. You got to make people feel a little guilt.
No. I do. My work is centered around reality-based issues. So there's a lot to write about. And as Bill Cosby, what he was good for doing is he could make you laugh without cursing and using any type of derogatory language or.
No, I didn't think that was possible.
So it is possible.
You had to add a little sauce into it to make it funny.
Well, I think a lot of people believe that, but I don't.
Right.
I don't really believe that, but that's what a lot of people do.
Exactly.
And they were he and Flip Wilson and a few other folks were very successful in doing that kind of thing. Back to you, Hayward. Did I get your name right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get it right. No?
Haywood Fennell.
Yeah, Hayward. Come on, give me some more on what you got going on now.
We are blessed.
Yeah, let me hear what I haven't heard from you.
Well, we have the Cuda trilogy, which is an alternative learning source through these 3 books that I wrote about a little boy from.
About what?
About a little boy from Roxbury.
Oh, okay.
Who wanted to be a rap star, and his mother was concerned that he would get involved in gangs and stuff. So she sends him down south to his grandmother, Miss Mattie, a retired school teacher, who doesn't own the television, doesn't know anything about rap, won't call him by his nickname Cuda, and insists that he read. So they go to the library to get a library card, and when he gets in the library, he asks for the Source magazine. And the librarian said, well, what is that? He said, that's the gangster rap magazine with Tupac and Biggie. She says, oh, no, we don't have that. We have Ebony, Jet, Black Enterprise, and Essence. So the grandmother says, Jerome, go find a book while I fill out this card. So he goes down the row and he gets the book, but when he gets at the end of the row, there's 3 tables, and one of the tables sitting a young girl with braided hair, and she's reading a book with her finger, and at her right elbow is a red and white folded thing. She's blind, but she could hear. So she said, who's here? He's mesmerized, and he slowly walks towards her. He said, it's me. She said, me who? He said, well, my name is Jerome, but my dogs call me Cuda. And she said, that's strange, because dogs don't talk, they bark. And why would you want to allow your friends to call you by an animal name? So what this book does, it goes on to talk about how do you not use racial and ethnic slurs to include the N-word. And then he goes into an out-of-the-body experience, and he learns about freedom, because he wakes up and he's a slave. And he learns about the Underground Railroad. He learns about unity, because he gets caught up with some other runaway slaves looking for Harriet Tubman. The second book, Cuda and the Challenge, talks about the Irish and how we helped them when they came from Ireland, through his ancestors. And we go into his ancestral history. We again reintroduce the quilt. It's about conflict resolution. And the third book, he's getting ready to go to college, and we talk about the 7 people that he meets that helps him shape the principles of his life. So we worked this summer with some girls from Lenox Street Projects to do an alternative reading and anti-bullying project using the book, the Cuda book, the first one. And it was also read, and I met a young man yesterday at the Yorkie Boys and Girls Club who read my book. And I was standing there waiting for a meeting with the director, and this young man was standing by me, and he didn't say anything. So I went in and we were talking, the director and her assistant went out and brought the young man back in. Said, this is one of the young men that read your book. And so I got a feedback from him, and he really liked the book. So I'm sending them a...
How old a young man was he?
I'm going to send them a graphic from the 90-second animation movie trailer from Kuda and the Magic Quote, because we're working on an animated movie full feature. Just got to put the money together, but we have the script, you know, and it also can be done in a play. I was talking with Sophia from Stages Culture Center in Randolph about, and she wants to do a play out of it. So I have a lot of writing. I write a lot of things, and I'm real conscious
Where
about.
Where do you produce your plays?
Well, we're at the Blackstone Community Center in the South End. So that's
What?
where the Blackstone Community Center.
Blackstone, okay.
Yeah, we mount from there.
Okay.
And so now we are getting ready to go to the Strand Theater on
Where's
October
the
the
Strand?
29th.
Where's the
It's
Strand?
543 Columbia Road.
Columbia.
A big stage, lighting, sound, dance,
The whole thing.
the whole McGillicuddy.
Good, good. And what are you going to produce there?
The Miss Marian Anderson and Friends Project.
When's that going to be?
October the 29th.
Until?
2 performances, a matinee at 3 p.m. and an evening performance at 7 p.m. with a reception, VIP reception.
Okay. What do you use? What's the entrance fee for your plays usually?
The tickets, general ticket information, admitted is $25.
How
And
much?
$25.
45?
25.
Oh, 45.
And for the VIP,
I
it's
just
$50.
added some money onto it.
Huh?
I just gave you extra money, 25, 45.
Well, I'll pick it up, lady. I don't want you to give it to me, you know, when people can see it. But I'm gonna hold you to it.
And Antoinette,
Yes.
talk about some of the stuff you've written. You say you've written about 4 or 5 plays, right?
Yes, I think.
No book yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, you wrote
I
the book,
haven't
that's
wrote
right.
the
We're
book. I
gonna get
wrote
the
the
book. We're
novel.
gonna try to
I've
make the
written
book a
some
movie, yeah.
short stories. I've written stories for people who didn't think that anything could be written about their life. A friend of mine was going through a very difficult time in his life, and I wrote him a 20-page short story, which he told me.
What's the basis of your books? Hers are religious. What are the basis of your books?
Mine also tend to be of a religious vein. The Anointed obviously is clearly religious. It's about a young preacher who is aspiring to, you know, the upper echelons of the religious organization. I've written a play called Too Much Drama, and it's about a church in turmoil, and it could be any church. In fact, I let a few people preview it, and the first question was, did you write it about this church? Did you write it about this church? And I'm not going to name any churches. But so what that tells me is that
How many characters in this play?
in this particular play, there are about a dozen characters.
12, okay.
Yeah. Obviously, some major, some minor, but all important.
And where is it headed? What direction?
It is about a
it's
church.
Not in guilt, it's in pleasure, right?
Well, some of it is pleasure. So,
Okay.
it's about a church who is bringing up a no confidence vote against their pastor, who has been at the church for 5 years after replacing a well-favored, well-loved pastor who had suddenly passed away. And the church feels like he has not held up the standard that the previous pastor did in the church. And even his wife is saying to him, we have to do some things. Their son, who is the choir director, is living a very questionable life and doesn't reflect the faith that they brought him up in. And so people are complaining about that. There's some very strong sisters who are the granddaughters of the founder of the church, who are leading the charge to get this preacher ousted. And even the former first lady of the church, the former pastor's wife, he comes to her and asks for her help. And he has treated her poorly, so for him to do that, he has to swallow his pride because he knows she's the only one left that can really help him in this situation. So it's about how God moves, and sometimes the most unlikely way to resolve an issue.
How does it resolve itself?
I can't tell you that.
Oh,
Because
come
if I
on.
tell you that,
What
then
do
nobody would come
what
to
do
the
you
play.
mean to tell me that?
Let's just say that God shows up.
Fool you that time. Yeah, you go to I read that.
God
no
does show up.
fair, no fair. You led me to the.
Hey, you know,
Led you to the water, but won't let you drink
I read it.
So what are you working on now?
Right now, I'm working on Myn Herte 2, which will be performed in February of 2017 at the Bishop McGhee Auditorium in Providence, Rhode Island. So,
Big house.
yes, big house. I'm excited. This particular project is something I had actually already written about 7 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It kind of stemmed from an issue with my brother and his kids, and I was talking.
This is the familial.
Yes, but really only.
You're gonna write about your brother.
But actually, only a small piece, and the things that actually have to do with him have to do with a lot of men that I know, and the mother and the children.
Do you want to discuss the piece that?
Yes, actually, it's about
Just don't tell them the end.
Exactly. Just this one piece that a lot of men are quite familiar with is the mother of their child not letting the men see the father see their children.
Not see the fathers of their children. Back that one up for me.
No, it's about
women not letting
the child see their father.
Are these in this play? These women out of wedlock, or had children and left.
Yes,
the man?
out of wedlock. And they're not
wedlock.
Together any longer.
Oh,
whatever
okay.
the reasons are, rather.
So they don't want the child to have any relationship with the actual father.
Exactly, especially if they have an issue with him at that moment. I know the story has been.
Which is all too familiar.
Exactly.
But you used the term a lot of men.
I know quite a
that's
few
heavy.
men. I know quite a few men.
That's pretty heavy, though.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
It needs to be spoken about, though.
It does, because not all men, all
Now,
fathers do not.
Is that all black men or all?
No,
all
I'm just talking about men in
general?
particular, because
Men in particular.
exactly, because this is not just a black issue.
Yeah.
I've seen it across the board with other cultures.
Yeah.
It's just, I just believe it's just a source of control for the woman. Because she can have what she want or whatever it might be. Well, you cannot see your child, and that's not fair to the child. And I saw my brother hurt during this process, and I was so angry. And I said to my mom, "You just can't do this, because the child is affected."
Yeah.
And I looked at my mother and I said, "Myn Herte 2." And I was like, "There it is. There's the name of the
So
play."
he was the victim.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did that resolve in your book, in your play?
I can't tell you. You have to.
No. What is this? What do you mean?
Well, there's
You
a
have
lot
to
of
come
other
and see.
scenarios. Yeah,
You
there's
have to come and see.
Right. That's just one small scenario of the actual play, because there are some other things that men do deal with that they don't even talk about, and they hurt. And most of the time, we hurt as women so often and so much that we overlook the problems that affect the men. And we need to be more sensitive to men. Just because they don't communicate the way we do and express their feelings like we do does not mean that they don't hurt. So I want to make sure that I'm well-rounded in the plays and the things I produce, and not just be one-sided.
Let's look back at some of the stuff you've done. What's April Shower like?
April Showers was my first movie.
Yeah.
And it was about, what was that about? That was a long, I can't even tell you what that really was
It hasn't
about.
been that long.
Yes,
98?
98.
That's almost 20 years.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
a lot of writings that she's done between then.
Right, it's just that this woman, she just finds love at the end.
She told you that ending. You see
that's okay, but you know why?
I got me an end.
But you know why? Because you know why? I had sent that movie out to Oprah's production company, Spike Lee, and there's a lot of Christian content in that movie. Of course, they were like, "This is not for us right now." I even sent it to the Potter's House, and they were like, "No." And then I had someone read it and edit it that's in the industry, and she tore it up. I was like, "Oh, forget it." Yeah. So, that's just the work I can say. This was my first movie that I had written, and I'll keep it like that. I try to push it.
Well, I mean, the fact that you didn't get the reception on the first try is anything but unfortunate, because you got an opportunity to believe in what you were doing and put it out there, and people came back and said, well, hey, like, maybe if you do this, if you do that, and you were open to take that,
right.
And to improve your skills,
right.
And then to have the confidence and an encouragement from other people to eventually create your own production company.
Exactly. I
So
appreciate
that's the blessing.
Yes.
One of them anyway.
Exactly.
How about Sojourner Truth?
Well, I had read a book, a short story about her and her life, and I just made it up. I made a play concerning her life and how she was an abolitionist, and she couldn't read, but she would have children read for her, and just the fight to take on segregation. And once I did that in the church, I had people become slaves, and had the children reading for her, and her, those things that I had read in the book. I just brought it to life in my own words, but still the words of the book. I didn't do any plagiarism or anything, but if it said she did this, I just wrote in my own words what they would probably be saying at that point in time. And
feeling it.
I thought it was a great short play. It was my first, out the gate, and I loved it.
Yeah, all right.
Because it had to do with my history. So.
You had to what?
It had to do with my history, Black history.
Oh.
Sojourner Truth. So.
Okay. You got to go there first.
Right.
Okay. And how about Lovin Lies?
Oh, Lovin Lies. Oh my gosh. Lovin Lies. I actually had written that in maybe 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks to write that play.
Took you 2 weeks? That long?
Yes, that one. No, but I sat at the table one day and I just started writing, and I couldn't stop. Between being a wife and
now let me ask you before you. When you started writing, was the computer and up and running?
Yes.
The computer was up and running.
Yes.
All right. So you had it easy. You didn't have to fuss with the typewriter.
Exactly. Very easy. God, thank you. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Unlike Antoinette, who's probably written out every play for
Everyone.
Right.
I'm a paper girl.
Lovin Lies is based on a female who was in the church but kind of strayed away, and she was still dating a guy from the church, and her ex-boyfriend came back in the picture who left her some years before and took everything. He came back, and he wanted to apologize, and she opened the door. But once she opened that door, those feelings came right back. So she let him stay over one night because he didn't have a place to stay. Next thing you know, it ended up being a few weeks. And then her now boyfriend is kind of like pushed to the back burner, and she's lying to him. And then he finds out that, this fella was back and that she was sleeping around with him. And then he ends up using her again, the same guy, and he leaves her. But yet the church boy, he's there at the end to console her, and she's thinking that it's going to work out, and he's like, it's just going to take time, so give me time. But he still loves her, so kind of like semi-Hollywood ending.
Yeah, I like it.
You working on anything new, Antoinette?
I am not working on anything new. I actually have to go back and revise my
wrong with
novel.
it?
I have a ton of ideas in my head. I just have so many things on my plate right now that I don't have time to sit down and get them on paper. But I have a ton of ideas in my head that I keep saying I gotta write that down. I'll write down titles. I'll write down lines that come to my head.
Right.
I'll write down themes, and so that I don't lose them when I do have the time to sit down and write. That's very important.
Good.
That's so you don't lose it. So I actually
Exactly.
carry in my handbag a notebook, so that when I get ideas, because you can get ideas almost anywhere. I used to get ideas commuting on the bus, on the MBTA, and I would write them down so that I wouldn't lose the ideas. It might be a line to a song. It might be a catchphrase for a play, and it might be a title of a book, or even a storyline.
I used to do that. I used to write stuff down. I could never find it after I wrote it.
Now you have to write where it
and
is.
this is why it's in a notebook and not on loose paper.
Hey, what you working on there?
Yeah.
What are you working on now?
I'm working on the People of Guy. People of Guy goes way back. They're African tribe, and they deal with planting healing herbs and those things, and they get captured. The Earth clan gets captured. The whole clan gets gyroscoped to South Carolina to what they thought was to grow the herbs for the guy that ordered them, quote unquote, and to plant rice because they knew about rice. And they were a seafaring people, and they were warriors. So when they came back and found out that the Earth clan was gone, they start putting things together, build the armada to go back and to bring their people back. And so now I'm about finished with that. I just stopped writing on it, and I plan to go down to Washington to see the new museum, and then go to the Library of Congress and register that, and register my other works that I'm doing, because I forgot to talk about the ladies of the Lily of the Valley projects that I'm writing about, these ladies that live in the projects, and different themes that go on in the urban settings of the projects. So I'm working on that right there too,
Speaking of the museum, the Black History Museum you're talking about,
Yes.
which is just open.
Officially, I think it's open this week.
Yeah,
Yep.
took John Lewis 16 years to get that through Congress.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of war going on during those 16 years as to why it should be on the common.
Right.
Yeah. I understand it's the only non-white museum. What is brown? It's brown in color. The color of the building is brown. It's the only non-white building on the common.
One other thing I wanted to say that I'm working on, I've been working on for the last 4 years, is this calendar that we have in honor of Black veterans. And I commissioned this after-school program of artists from humanity, for humanity, and they drew these pictures from the American Revolution up to the Tuskegee Airmen, and it's historic in nature, and they have been exhibited, and they're beautiful. And so what we're doing now is trying to get the petition signed so that we can petition the U.S. Postal Service to make them into a commemorative stamp series. And I sent them to, I sent a copy to Michelle Obama along with the Kuda books, and she sent me back a letter, thanking me for that. So that's a part of the new 2017 calendar that's coming out, and we're in this year we're honoring African American Medal of Honor recipients. So try to people to understand that our history is so broad that we must tell our history, because if we don't, who will?
Are you tied to any organizations?
Oh yeah. I'm in American Legion.
No, I don't mean any black-related organization or producers
No.
black.
I'm a NAACP member.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the NAACP.
How about in your art?
In Boston?
In theater?
And I'm affiliated with a few artists.
But there's no organization?
None that I know of. None that I know of that's thriving the way that it should be. Because when Helen was talking, where my mind went was this, Richard. I said to myself that I'm going to talk with you about trying to see how we can get a group of people from Boston to come to your play when you open up.
Yeah.
To kind of build that and strengthen that. Yeah, right.
Theater.
That's what we're going to do.
How about you? Anything are you in Providence?
Yes, I am. No, I'm not affiliated with any other organizations.
Are there any organizations that support organizations that support the arts?
There's a need for that.
Well, I think on my side, because I'm doing Christian work within I'm a Christian theater company.
Yeah.
Okay. The only thing I'm affiliated with is a new organization called Worship Arts Restoration.
Is a Christian organization?
No, it's called Worship Arts Restoration. And what they do is raise money so that they can help out Christian artists, and whatever you need paint supplies, you need props built, you need actors, anything in the arts of Christianity, because one of the problems we have, not just in black theater, but as Christians, it's hard to get those resources and dollars in to do what you need to do. I mean, one thing, if I was doing a play about the Harlem Renaissance, I can go forth and get money just like that. However, once I attach Jesus Christ to it, they don't want to give you any money. Yeah. That religion kind of puts you in a whole nother.
Yeah, it does.
How many people that do you relate to in your town that are interested in what you're doing?
We have a lot of church people, people who have strayed from the church. We have a lot of secular folks. When you want to deal with ages, it's across the board from 9-year-olds to seniors. And when I say seniors, wheelchairs, walkers in their 90s. So I have a broad audience, but the message is reality based. So it's familiar to the people who are attending the plays. It's something they can recognize. If they're not dealing with the problems or the issues that I present, they know someone who is.
What's this house, the seating in the?
It's 750 seats in the
nice
Bishop.
number.
Yeah.
How about in your house?
1,500, but we've only blocked off for 700 for 2 performances, so that would be 1,400. No, we're looking now at the strategy now of how do we better market and promote ourselves. Now we get people to not try to be the lone wolf, in producing, but a lot of times people, they think that they should get paid right away, and that kind of takes away from the excitement of getting something on the stage. Because once you write and get it performed, and look to see how people respond, emotionally to what you've written, that within itself is a reward.
Exactly.
And then if you, like we have now a core group of principals with portfolio that have been with us for several years. So that makes a big difference, because I'm here now, but we're in rehearsal, getting ready for the October 29th event.
Right, and because these people are attached to you and they've been working with you, they can sort of handle it themselves.
Yeah, they can handle it. And the other thing is, Helen and everybody, is that I don't want it to be my company. I want it to be our company. I don't want them to say it's Haywood's company. I want them to say it's the Oscar Michelle Family Theater Program Company.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they can buy into it. We don't just sit down and start reading lines. We talk about the times. We talk about the people, so they can know the people.
So you're educating them.
Yeah. So when they get on the stage, they got to be believable.
Exactly.
Is there anything that Haywood hadn't told me that you think he should be telling me?
He's going to tell you whatever he wants you to know about him.
I mean, I'm very proud of my children. My children, a month or so ago, my youngest daughter became a principal of an elementary school in the Bronx. My other daughter is a captain in corrections in Rikers Island. My son is a sanitation man. My other daughter is with my wife. She's not well. And the other daughter works in the school system. They all work for New York City School. So I could talk about my kids all day because I lived through my children.
Good. Well, we're going to wrap. This has been a good discussion. And I got to think of a good title for this discussion, because we've covered some interesting stuff here. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to say a little wrap up,
Okay.
and then we're going to close out. You want to say your last few words before the curtain comes down?
Sure. I would like to thank you for allowing me to be on your show, and the need to build a black theater and bring it back to where it needs to be. We have to be proud of who we are and what we're capable of doing and our talents. And we see acting all the time on the opposite side. Now we need to see ourselves doing it so that our children can see themselves doing it. And in order for that to grow, you have to have these outlets for or opportunities for black theater, and we are those black opportunities. So we need our people to believe in themselves and believe in us, because we, like he said, if we don't tell our story, who is? You know, if we, believe it or not, when you go to a regular theater production, it's totally different than how we write and how we are as a people, and we need to be able to recognize ourselves in what we do.
Good. Antoinette?
I would encourage anybody who is watching or listening to this conversation tonight and thinking, oh, she only does Christian theater. I would challenge you to keep an open mind. Come out and see a couple of our productions, because the medium itself, the theater, the presentation will grab you.
Right.
And I think some of the storylines will surprise you, because Christians are real people. We go through real life situations. You know, the only difference is that we have God on our side. We know our faith is what gets us through it. So come out, support us, and you know, and help us to build this production company. We're hoping to get a building of our own to create a studio, and you know, the more success we see in the theater, the faster that will happen.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Haywood?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me here today. I really enjoyed myself. Praise God. We will be at the Strand Theater October 29th for 2 performances, 3 p.m., 7 p.m. We're located at 543 Columbia Road. Tickets are $25, and the evening performance is VIP. Those tickets are $50, or you can just pay the $25 general admissions. There is a need for the presence of black community theater so that we can begin to build our character, build ourselves. And, you know, we are not a Christian, but we're morally based.
Right. People.
You know, we're morally based, you know. Our stories are not about gloom and doom. You know, it's about our history and our triumphs. You know, our history is no mystery. That's our theme. Education is a weapon for change. We believe that. So we're just grateful to be here with my friend Helen and my new friend and you. And I hope that you make the show.
I will make every effort.
The world of Wellesley. I hope you bring them all.
I'll make every effort.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, thank the three of you. And I want to say to my audience, this has been a pleasurable experience. Thank you for looking in on us. The Learning Tree, and I am Richard S. McGhee, and good night.
Good night.